Most cancers result from somatic cell mutations, or new mutations that happen to our normal cells. However, there are a number of forms of cancer that can be hereditary. It's fairly low percentage, maybe 1 to 2% out of the different types of known cancers, and 50 forms total are known. So some examples of this would be cancers involved with the gene BRCA1, BRCA1. These cancers are involved with early onset breast cancer. These tend to affect women when they are quite young. They can also affect uterine cancer. Angelina Jolie, you may have heard about her in the news. She underwent recently a preventative mastectomy because she found that she had this running in her family and she wanted to prevent that from happening to herself. There's a few others that you may have heard about before. Retinoblastoma is another fairly uncommon cancer. However, it can also run in families. The gene involved here is PRB, and we talked about RB in the previous lecture. This is a cancer that can affect the eye, particularly in children. Another way that we can get cancers is actually through viruses, and it's a pretty large number of viruses can cause these different cancers, and about 15% of human cancers are actually associated with viruses. And so they are actually the second greatest risk factor that we have for cancer, second only to tobacco smoking. The most common or significant contributors to these cancers are papillomaviruses, specific forms of this virus, HPV-16 and HPV-18. There has recently, in the past about 10 to 12 years or so, there has now been a vaccine available for this. And this is something that is now given to children when they're about preteen age in order to prevent this from being spread. Again, this is spread simply through contact. Human T-cell leukemia virus is another one that can be spread through a virus. Hepatitis B virus, human herpes virus 8 can lead to Kaposi's sarcoma in immunocompromised patients. This is a specific type of cancer that can affect AIDS patients or other patients that may be immunocompromised. And Epstein-Barr virus is another one that can also contribute to cancer. Environmental agents are a huge contributor to cancers. The most significant environmental carcinogen is tobacco smoke. It contains at least 60 mutagenic chemicals, and it gives smokers a 20-fold increase in developing lung cancer. A few other environmental agents that people may not be as aware of: consumption of red meat and animal fat is associated with colon cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer. Alcohol can lead to inflammation in the liver, and this can lead to liver cancer. Some compounds that can be found are just natural, and they're natural processes. However, even though it's natural, doesn't mean it's necessarily safe, and they can be potentially carcinogenic. There's a mold that can be found on bread and corn called aflatoxin. It is one of the most carcinogenic chemicals known. It can also be found sometimes on peanut shells as well. Nitrosamines can be used as a meat preservative. They are also known to cause cancer, particularly stomach cancer, as well as colon cancer. There are also many other naturally occurring and synthetic pesticides and antibiotics, which can also be carcinogenic. And there's a lot of studies going on to determine the carcinogenic compounds that companies may be newly developing. Many types of light, in fact UV light, as well as ionizing radiation, which would be X-rays or gamma rays, can induce DNA damage. UV sunlight is very strongly correlated to skin cancer. This damage can directly affect these skin cells and can lead to this tumor formation. One that's a little less well known is radon gas. Radon gas is naturally found in the ground, and it can be found leaking in many basements of many homes. So this is definitely something to check. There are simple kits and simple tests that can be found out there on the internet for quite inexpensive price. And you can test to see the level of radon gas in various areas, and it's responsible for maybe up to 50% of the ionizing radiation that the US population is exposed to, and it can definitely contribute to lung cancer. Remediation, it's very endemic into this area, and in fact when we recently bought our house, radon gas was found in the basement. However, we were able to put a remediation system in as part of the contract. We negotiated that. This week, I'd like you to work on answering the Mastering Genetics questions, so catch up on those if you haven't been. The quiz this week is actually it's not actually a quiz, it's an assignment, and it is posted on D2L. Also, make sure that you are participating in the discussion forums. Even if you've missed a few weeks, catch up on some of the discussions and you can still earn points for those missing weeks. Lastly, make sure you're working on your student project that's going to be due in just a few weeks now.